afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, municipal managers. And contrary to popular belief, I'm very nervous when I have to speak in front of people. I never get to see people whenever I speak. They can see me, but I never get to see them, so that's much better. So pardon me if I appear very nervous. It's an honor to come here and talk to the issue of local government, something that is at the heart of the research that I've done, and it continues to bother me a lot. And my main submission this afternoon is that as South Africa, I do not think we take local government seriously. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I believe that our expectations of what local government has to deliver upon is disproportionately higher than the resources we are putting into local government as a sphere of government. By the resources, I don't just mean money, but I mean resources in terms of channeling our intellectual capacity to local government, making sure that it is fully staffed, and also making sure that local government is reflected upon our research body, either as academics or as researchers. And my observation is that back in 1996, when I was still a student, I couldn't come across any research at one of the respectable universities where local government was a subject matter or it was being studied. It was 1996. And at this moment, you might see a lot of research coming out from various academic institutions and also various centers. And my criticism to that is that it is usually a very reactive research. I believe that academia and researchers should lead the way and identify problems before problems are expressed in society. But what you see now is a body of research coming out which is very reactive, which is so problem-oriented that it, to my view, it also lacks creative thinking in terms of exactly what local government should be about. And it is because of this. I might not go through the entire presentation. I'll just talk to it. You'll get access to it. Probably they'll find a way to make it available to you. The reason why you have local government so understudied is because it's just not interesting. I have to be very clear to you. You want to build a career, your first line of entry, it's not going to be local government. You go there when maybe you feel you couldn't make it elsewhere, and then you then go to local government. I want to speak very frankly, and the comparison is that for me, actually, the intellectual or maybe the resource that it requires to run a municipality, in my view, is much higher than what is required to run a department as a director general. But unfortunately, the narratives and the perceptions in South Africa is that you really don't want to do nothing. You just want to earn your salary and all that, fine, go to local government. It is unfortunately the views out there. And the challenge I want to put forward is how did we get to this point, and exactly how can we remedy that kind of the runaway negative perception about local government. I call it a runaway negative perception in a sense that the negative perception is actually higher than the reality of the actual failure of local government in South Africa. I've spent time in various provinces studying local government, trying to understand exactly why do certain municipalities come out well in auditing and why do others not come out well. In the media where I work the most, and I want to be very honest here with you, in the media where I work the most, it's very easy to just point to corruption on everything. Everybody's corrupt. That is why municipality audits are bad and all that. But an intensive study shows exactly that there is just no resources. What do you expect a municipality that runs without a CFO to even get to a point where it can be audited? Some of the municipalities some years ago were inauditable. There is just no documentation to carry out a proper audit. It's not because the people who are at local government level, they are incompetent, they are lax, they are laxture, they are not interested. It's simply because as a nation, we do not take local government seriously. And we all exist at local government level, which is very unfortunate as to why are we having this situation where we do not take local government seriously. I think that the main concern here is the inception of local government in South Africa. And I'm going to talk to the 20 years, something that I think we haven't done well, and something we have done well. If there is something that we have done well at this point, is that I think we have learned how not to do it. That is a lesson. In the past 20 years, we need to draw that. But if there is something that we did not do very well, and something that I feel very strong about, I'm not saying this because I'm among municipal managers. I've argued this point back in 2006 when I started writing academic papers on local government. The idea of seeing local government as just a vehicle for service delivery was a problem in South Africa, where it ignores the fact that local government structure inherited communities that have been outside the political space for years. Suddenly you have this structure coming in, and you are constituting this structure as just a vehicle of service delivery. And when I talk about service delivery, I mean just the basics. One important element that we left behind, it's the idea of understanding political participation as a service. Something that local government need to be able to deal with. Local government need to be structured and carry itself in a way that it provides people with political participation. I have a theory that, and I've been forthright about this, that where you have poor service delivery, but you have good public participation, and people came to forum and all that, you will not have service delivery protest. No one has proved me wrong on that one. And I've put forward that theory that what we see as service delivery protests are not service delivery protests. They are not always service delivery protests. They are triggered by service delivery, there is no doubt. But the main concern, it's the collapse of leadership at local government level, where you are planted and you are expected to provide that management to make sure municipalities perform. You have the collapse of leadership, not just from political parties, from also the faith communities. What happened after 1994? You had a lot of communities that used to be and take leadership within communities. They have withdrawn because everyone has abdicated responsibility of running communities to you as managers, as local government. Even if you were good, even if you were excellent, I'll give you an A+ in your grade, you wouldn't manage to manage communities on your own, because it requires other leadership in terms of the faith community and also in terms of other civil society organizations within communities. When I talk civil society organization, I don't just mean organized civil society. I mean people used to be concerned about what's happening on their street. You used to have people really taking control, not in a vigilante way, but in a way that people are concerned about what is going on. That thing has collapsed to a point where the only point you see communities, or most cases you see communities rallying at local government level, is to voice out concern against municipalities. The communities never gather to deal with other things other than grievances. Those institutions that used to exist, that dealt with, that provided some kind of form of participation for communities, have dissipated and have been replaced by the kind of behavior where the only relationship that municipalities has with the communities is that of give us the services, and we then coming up with grievances about the services. Nothing else, in my view, brings municipalities and communities together other than this service delivery oriented kind of approach. And I think it's quite wrong, and I think it is a setup for failure. And the challenge is that we need to find a way to reconstitute our local government in a way that it can diffuse tensions within communities. People want leadership. National government, in practical terms, does not exist. People, when they get up, they come into immediate contact with local government. National government deals with policies that are high level, and usually people expect local government to do more, which brings me to another point as to the powers that local government has had during inception, based on the idea of service delivery, and what our experience should show us now, 20 years into the journey. And I think, I'm not saying that the whole intergovernmental framework need to be thought about. But if people are saying to you as local government authorities, as municipalities, that we want jobs, and you know where you function, you have been constituted in a way that you just provide basic services. You do not even make so much input at that structure level on the creation of jobs and policies to that extent. There need to be a thinking Because communities are not going to understand that it's actually not your responsibility to create jobs. They will keep on pushing for such kind of services. So I think that it is very much important 20 years down, maybe to rethink about the devolution of responsibilities, maybe to rethink about our IGR structure, not to totally overhaul it, but to rethink about it, because the experience that we have had in the past 20 years has put us in a situation where we came to realize certain things that we did not presume will form the relationship at local government level. And if we continue doing things in the same manner, no matter how much of service delivery we provide, local government will continue to be a scene of tension in South Africa. And just the last point, so that I do not exhaust my time. The last point about the regulatory regime and how local government has been seen in the past 20 years. I used to work at National Treasury. I'm coming out clean now, where my job used to be to write guidelines. I'll sit there and look at a department that, how do I manage to get them to live up to this behavior? I'm gonna issue out guidelines. That's how it is. And some people will even call. I remember one department will call and say that, what do we need to do about the guidelines? I'll say, they're the guidelines. I said, do we need to follow them, or it's just a guide and all that? But that just shows the cumbersome legislative framework that local government is working within. If you look at the MFMA, you need someone to sit 24 hours to report on that. I'm not saying reporting should not be done, but I'm saying it is so cumbersome that you are going to dedicate a lot of resources towards reporting. Hence the use of consultants so heavily in local government, because the reporting regime is a completely separate regime that needs to be complied with. The last point, Program Director, is the question of the auditing, which I would like to comment on. One of the barometers, one of the yardstick of gauging performance at local government. What does it mean to get a clean audit? A good example was given at the NCOP a few weeks ago by Salga Chairperson, who said that maybe this auditing need to also talk to happiness index. Happiness index, Mr. Manyoni mentioned that in one of the municipality, one of the citizens had a concern which was addressed, and the citizen wrote a paper, wrote a letter back to the municipality that I'm glad you have sorted out the parking. I'm no longer going to move my office to maybe suburbia or elite area because you have sorted the parking and people no longer park illegally. I'm very happy. But those are things that do not find themselves into the auditing, but they still constitute an amount to good performance. My question here is that we need to find a way to bring together the compliance regime and performance of local government. There are certain areas where the books are really good, but no one is happy about performance. And the question that I'm asking is that while we try to strengthen local government to live up to better reporting framework and making sure that there is compliance, it is very much important to ask if local government is really making a difference for the people's life. If you all come up with clean audit and no one is happy, there is no purpose of compliance then. It needs to be thought about. That's just about it from me. Thank you for listening. The presentation is available.